Welcome into the Toyota Lounge. For,
That's my guy.
This isn't the DNVR Broncos podcast. This is like pregame.
DNVR Broncos pregame.
show.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Pregame live?
Pregame live.
Oh,
game.
man. When you throw live in there, it sounds.
It does. Wow.
It's amazing. Yeah.
You may have noticed
What a
that's
time to be
not
alive.
Zach
No.
or Jake, who we had last week, or Todd or RK.
Right.
That's Andre.
Not D-line.
Yeah.
Probably closest to D-line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Andre. Hi.
You know, I was thinking today.
Zach is at the stadium.
Yes, he is. And he'll call into the postgame show, so stay tuned for that. I was thinking about today, nobody ever introduces you as DNVR General Manager Andre Simone.
Some people mix it in.
Really?
Vote has a tendency to do that.
Okay.
I don't know that for content purposes it's really relevant.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think I've done a lot of other stuff at this company that's probably more relevant.
Yeah, like what?
You know, spending a year analyzing the value of each position in the major four sports.
There we go.
The film rooms, the draft coverage, the grades.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, probably more relevant. Even my betting content.
Oh, that's, of course, yes.
Yeah.
All of that way more relevant than the fact that you're the one who's like in charge of sending out bills and those sorts of things. Yeah.
Right.
There we go.
Yeah, totally.
We've got 28 minutes left to talk about this preseason game. And honestly, there's a lot more to talk about than I thought there would be. Mostly because we've gotten the list of players who will not be participating today.
Breaking news. This is big.
Most of them guys you'd expect. No Bo Nix. No Javonte. None of like the big name starters.
Yep.
Let's start here though. Riley Moss.
Yes.
Not playing today. Seems like he locked up the second starting corner job.
That's big. Yep. I'm with it.
Yeah. Is that a good thing for the Broncos that he's the guy?
I think so. I think he's looked good. Probably has the highest pedigree.
Yep.
The big thing with Riley was the adjustment from that zone-heavy scheme at Iowa to maybe more of a diversity of schemes in Vance Joseph's defense. And it sounds like he's really stepped up to the call this offseason in year 2. And I think that's a tremendous sign for you.
Yep, I think so too.
And he's got the size, the athleticism. He played big-time ball. Like, top 100 pick. He's the guy you'd want in that spot.
The first time I talked to Riley, I asked him about some of that stuff, like the different schemes, and he really didn't open up all that much. I got him to open up a little bit more about Torrey Taylor and some of the special teams things there, because I was actually writing about him and Tremon, the Gunners. We'll talk more about Tremon in a second. Because there's some interesting stuff there, too.
Lots of moving pieces.
But during training camp, we don't have the open locker room. That doesn't open up until not next week, but the week after, game week, and you get to go talk to guys. And I'm really excited to get a chance to talk to Riley again about that transition, because we knew that there were a lot of things that he was really good at. He could read the quarterback's eyes. He, like those short zones, cover 2, he's quick jumping routes, making plays on the ball.
Right.
But just the stickiness
with
downfield.
The play in front of him, yes.
And in the NFL,
and good physicality, right?
Definitely.
Good size, good speed.
So
the whole shebang.
I'm excited to hear more about him. I think that he's probably going to be one of maybe the biggest storyline on the defense this year, right up there at the very least. It seems like that's solidified. Also seems like the Luke Wattenberg at center position is also solidified. We've known that one as well.
You have not graded him highly this preseason.
Yeah. The thing is,
I have not been super impressed.
There haven't been many plays where I look at Luke and say, like, oh, there we go. This guy's awesome. But there have been a lot of plays where you say, like, oh, a step to the right would have been nice, or it's a little bit quicker out in space would have been nice, or, on the second move, the guy got by. And that's where you hope that he just needs to grow. I think for somebody who hasn't started a lot of games, he isn't making these massive mistakes. But when you look at the entire offensive line, like, he's the guy who, like, if the pocket breaks down after 3 seconds, it's probably his guy who's getting through after 3 seconds. You're like, it's not the end of the world, but that could be the difference between a great offensive line and not a great offensive line.
Indeed. If there was a position I would scour the waiver wire for on cut, around cut time, that would be my leader in the clubhouse.
Okay. I would be curious what that would look like. Here are the two, and we're going to transition a little bit into some bigger picture, some roster type stuff. I'm going to have my 53-man roster prediction, like the last one, up tonight, so be on the lookout for that. I've got it mostly figured out, but there was a last-second change that I made.
Yeah.
And it involves two players who are not playing today, Tremon Smith and Lil Jordan Humphrey. So the number I've seen thrown around, Cody Rourke has done a really good job of tracking who's playing, who's not. 27 guys aren't playing. Likely 27 guys who are making the team. Tremon Smith, Lil Jordan Humphrey, not playing today. Two guys who I think a lot of people have had on the outside looking in when you just look at, there's 6 receivers in front of Lil Jordan who you just can't take spots away from.
At the very least on the bubble.
Exactly.
Firmly.
Exactly. I think that these are two guys who, because they're both vested veterans, don't need to clear waivers. So you can just cut them on cutdown day with an agreement in place that you will sign them to the practice squad, play them potentially in these first 4 games, and then find a roster spot for them, which could come because somebody's on injured reserve or somebody gets cut. Maybe things don't go well and you're already making a trade. I think that it's a sign that they're going to be in the building, though.
Yeah, surprising. The Lil Jordan Humphrey discussion you guys were having on the pod last week was really interesting because he does show up as a contributor that's worthwhile, but you don't want to necessarily burn a spot on the 53 for him. He's a perfect practice squatter. And if that's the plan, I think that really works out nicely. Smith, I think, has nice depth as insurance, just another vet in the building. What does that open up for everyone else then?
That's the thing.
Yes.
So first of all, I think Tremon Smith's one of the best special teams players in the NFL. I think last year...
so maybe he is just on the 53.
There's a chance. But I think they do the Lil Jordan Humphrey thing just like they had last year. Put him on the practice squad, save the roster spot. Then you don't have to worry about clearing these guys through waivers. Do we have the graphic, Yaya? Let's move into, like I said, I've got a pretty good idea of who I have on the inside, who I have on the outside in terms of this cutdown day. Cutdown day being, I think, 2 o'clock Tuesday. All these moves need to be made.
Fantastic.
As of now, my last 3 in, I've got Devin Key, Matt Henningsen, Matt Parrott. And I think all these guys are 50-50. We'll start with Devin Key.
Yes.
With the injuries they've had at safety,
I'm so worried about the safety position.
It really could turn into a big problem. But it does seem like there are always safeties kind of floating around. Safeties available.
With now center, more than I would also scour the waiver wire.
I think there could be something interesting on the waiver wire. Devin Key, though, he got the start in the last preseason game, maybe in both preseason games. That's a sign they like him. I wouldn't say he's playing...
One of the guys we'll be watching today for sure.
Definitely. I wouldn't say he's had a great preseason, but you could tell they like him. He hasn't had big mistakes, and that might be enough to have him on the team.
That's right. Kind of that classic safety. Not the sexiest, not the most exciting, but a reliable last line of defense. And so many times that is so much more valuable than the flashier stuff.
And a guy who's kind of taken the PJ Locke track, too.
Right.
A couple years on the practice squad, now kind of getting his chance.
And you've liked him in camp?
Yeah, I liked him. I had him when they moved on from Caden Stearns. This is one of the things I've taken pride in. Everybody's talking about what it must mean for JL Skinner. No, it was Devin Key who played so well that all of a sudden you can say, we don't need to take the risks on Caden. We've got a guy who we trust there.
And expect him to start today? A guy who should really get a solid chance to prove himself as one of the first ones in. Or last ones in.
Yes.
Last ones in. That's what, yes.
I would also say, though, that Keedron Smith, another safety who I have on the outside looking in, he's also looked pretty good. And he's younger. He had the pick in the first preseason game. When there was the pressure, ball just kind of floats right to him, easy play. His interception last week, though, he jumps the route. He's playing that deep middle spot, big crosser, and he reads it, gets in front of it, makes the play. And that's a much better play than the first interception, obviously. I think there's a chance that he could take this job from Devin Key.
It's a big one to watch today.
It's a big one to watch today.
Yeah, and he's kind of the opposite. He's the flashier guy. He can play some corner, right?
I think he did play corner in college,
Right.
yes.
So there's that, a little more toolsy in coverage, but not as reliable last line of defense. Not the same type of vet that Key is. Okay.
Exactly.
Love this.
Matt Henningsen, I have in.
Yeah.
And also having watched these games, I have Jordan Jackson out. And I think Jordan Jackson's getting into these games before Henningsen is. I have Elijah Garcia out. And Elijah Garcia is getting into these games, I think, maybe a little bit in front of him.
Yeah.
I think Henningsen has just been so solid, though, as a nose tackle.
Had some good impact plays against Green Bay.
Yeah.
I
think that you've seen some growth there. Maybe I'm leaning too much on the fact that he's played these last couple years and has seemed to have had a bit of an upward trend. I have him in right now, with the tiebreaker being that because there's more tape on him, I think he's more likely to get claimed. Whereas a Jordan Jackson, who's an awesome guy, Air Force grad, has really worked hard to get to this point.
Right.
I think he still clears waivers just because there isn't a lot out there on him.
Yeah.
And probably the same thing on Elijah Garcia, although the tools with Garcia, maybe somebody else is willing to take a chance on him.
Yeah, Garcia, I wonder. I think he might have a little more of a market, but boy, Henningsen is one of those draft picks that I was never super high on, a 7th rounder, right? Because I just have never seen those like high-end tools. But the staff keeps giving him chances, and this preseason he has kind of capitalized on some of that stuff.
Yep.
Even though he's undersized, like he's just in the right gap at the right time. If he happens to get in the backfield, he kind of makes the play. Like this is what he was doing at Wisconsin too. He wasn't like some game breaker.
He wasn't Uzurike.
But he was doing the right kind of play. Snap in, snap out.
Yep.
And that's valuable at the end of your roster. I'd be bummed if Garcia didn't make it in, especially over Henningsen.
I think that's fair. And I think that with those three, Henningsen, looking at it objectively, probably is third, just barely.
Yeah.
As a 6th lineman, I really like the fit. But then you also have Uzurike, who... How does he just shake up that group?
Yeah, and how impressed have you been with him this season? Sounds not like a ton.
The first few days back, he was incredible. Like, there was a rep in one-on-ones where he beat Quinn Miners. Next rep, he beats Alex Forsythe. And you're like, okay, this guy hasn't played football in a year, and he's doing this stuff. Like, you look at the defensive line group, big dudes. Innie's much bigger than any of them. Like, he's the one you want, like... walking off the bus first.
He's a massive guy. He's like basketball size.
He got sacks in the team drills in those first couple days, but then he's kind of tailed off. Hasn't done much didn't do much in the one preseason game he played. But with the big preseason game today, all of a sudden those bookends of his short stint, is that enough to get him on the team? And I wonder.
Right.
I wonder if he could clear waivers, because a lot of teams would say untouchable.
About that too.
But all it takes is one. And the Raiders don't care. Like, the Raiders claimed Jack Jones off waivers after all his mistakes he made with the Patriots, the last one being bringing a gun to an airport. They claim him off of waivers, not caring about any of that stuff, and he turns into a really good starting corner for them. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Defensive line is probably the most chaotic group as of now, I think.
Yeah, because Jackson... who to me is kind of an outsider, but he's getting on the field, as you were saying, ahead of some of these guys. Elijah Garcia is a piece I'm very intrigued by and would keep. Henningsen seems to be well-liked and maybe is more versatile than anyone but any. Yeah. Who could also, I feel like, play all 3 spots on the odd front. But then he's like kind of unproven in the NFL.
Definitely.
But like, it's much more of just like size and college projection still with him.
Sean Payton often says the last thing we want is for one of the guys who we have in the building to leave here and go be a good player for somebody else. Again, I love Jordan Jackson. He's one of my favorite guys on the team. The odds of him becoming like a great player, a starting player somewhere, it's still probably pretty slim.
Far-fetched.
Probably same thing with Henningsen. Probably the same thing with Elijah Garcia. Uzurike is the one guy there who you look at and you're like, the size of, or the combination of size and quick feet.
You don't think Garcia could pop?
I could see it because he does have he's so big, he's so long, he is a good athlete. He also has been around for a few years now and is just now. I think he played in 2-3 games last year, but the path would suggest
also
now.
his time in the NFL.
True.
But
yeah. So that's a big
massive.
one for me.
And those kind of stretches of domination you're talking about, that matters.
It matters.
Yeah.
Matt Parrott, I also have. He's my last guy in right now.
Yeah.
It's
I'm with you on this one, Hank. I'm with
tough.
you.
It's tough. I mean, he hasn't been great. But I also think that he's more of a project type of tackle. You weren't bringing him in to be the Cam Fleming. If you need him to play at a swing tackle,
yes,
he's proven he's played a bunch.
And it's a much more terrifying proposition than Cam Fleming was.
Absolutely.
And let's be honest, while I love the tools, where he's looked good this offseason is moved inside at guard.
I agree.
Right? So
I agree.
It would be disastrous if he was your swing tackle.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But that means it's Alex Palshevsky, who I love.
I know, but
it's so easy to love what you see in training camp.
That's more disastrous.
And that's the thing, though.
It's a disaster either way to me.
I know. As much as you can love what he does in practice, love what he does in preseason games, going into a season with a rookie quarterback saying you're one fluky injury away, well, knock on wood, from Alex Palshevsky needing to step in and be that guy, there's a chance it goes awesome, and all of a sudden you're saying let's save the money, move on from Garrett Bowles in the offseason. This guy's legit. Odds are slim.
I believe more in Pert and those tools and Sean Payton and his track record of developing. He really has prototypical size, athleticism. I had him highly graded. He was at the Giants, rotating doors, right? He never got some continuity, and then they just drafted a couple tackles ahead of him. It's just Palshevsky's outplayed him, right? This offseason, Hank? Is that fair to say, a tackle? I mean,
Probably. Yeah.
So at the same time, those tools only go so far. If he's telling you he can't even outplay a undrafted guy, and an undrafted guy who was very good at Illinois, who has some real IQ and skill himself, what can you do? But that's another one where I think this third game swings a lot of stuff for those guys.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. I mean, again, with Parrott, you shouldn't be surprised that he's not. He wasn't a great player with the Giants either.
No,
There's a reason they let him walk. He also got
Bad.
stuck behind Evan Neal, got stuck behind Andrew Thomas.
And very good. Georgia boy. Yep.
I think they drafted one other tackle who didn't work out. But
possible.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Pert.
They've been drafting a bunch of those guys. But he hasn't seen the field a lot. And for a top 100 pick who was seen as a project at the time, he hasn't quite blossomed yet, hasn't getting opportunities.
No.
I think that by the end of the year, if you still have him around, you might be really happy that you did that. Because if you have Matt Parrott, Alex Palshevsky, you let Garrett Bowles walk, you still probably want to use that first-round pick on a tackle. But you don't necessarily have to. It could be a second-round pick, a third-round pick. You have that competition there, and you hope that he's developed. So he's
Both
a tough one.
Should fall to practice squad.
Parrott scares me a top 100 pick, but I think so.
I know he's gone roundabout a couple times.
He didn't take the Quinn Miners path.
Yeah.
No. Here's another one. It sounds like Samaje Perine also not playing today. That's a big one to me. I've got him on the outside looking in.
You and Zach had a great discussion about this. Great discussion. And I mean, you should just explain it. It really comes down to, Beatty and Perine in your guys' estimation.
Yeah. Beatty goes to the practice squad. I think.
Yeah, does he make it?
He has to, right?
He's 24.
That's the weird thing is you look at him as a third-year player who has hardly done anything in the NFL. 2 touches. One of them was pretty awesome. It was a touchdown, 26 yards.
Oh, he's looked good this preseason.
And he's looked good in the preseason. Whenever you give him opportunities, he's popped. But he's 24. Yeah. I think Jaleel, 24, 25.
Yeah.
Javonte, 24.
Yep. Estime's 21.
Estime's still 20.
Yeah, right. So,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
he's
one of the youngest guys in the entire draft.
It's just tough. Blake Watson, 24, 25.
Yeah.
And Beatty's been better than
Perine's
most of them.
28, 29?
28, I think. So, Perine, you are going to miss him from just like a wins perspective if you don't keep him.
You're going to miss him on third down.
Exactly.
You're going to miss him on third down. It's hard to replicate that. Javonte, maybe. I look at you're probably carrying 4 backs, right? Mm-hmm. And Jalil's your speed. Javante's your power with Audric as the backup to your power.
Yep.
You'd love another alternate to Jalil as the speed guy.
Yeah.
Samaje is not that, but with his third down value as a pass protector and pass catcher, he kind of fills that void, even though Beatty would be a much more seamless Jalil replacement in replicating that speed and kind of game-breaking ability.
Yep. And it's tough. I think, again, with Samaje, he was so important to this team on third downs last year. And those 2-minute drills. Like, I mean,
last year really was, yes.
Like, because you don't... The win total is different from last year if you don't have him. I think on top of that, there's the fact that you want Estime to be able to do some of those things. We talked this week on the podcast.
Yeah.
There was a 3rd and 1 where he's open in the flat, doesn't realize that he should just cut his route off instead of turning into a wheel route going upfield. Stidham misses him because he's still running. It's like, it's just a rookie mistake. And as a 20-year-old, it's not that big of a deal. Like, that's something that he will learn. But when you have a rookie quarterback, having somebody, especially like to set protections back there too, like somebody you don't have to tell him what to do. He knows what to do. He'll leak out. He'll be an awesome option in the checkdowns. I have him on the outside looking in just because of the numbers game, because you're looking to the future. But I think
I do too. Age and how Beatty's looked, I would much rather Beatty.
Yeah.
But as outsiders, we can take for granted.
Yep.
The stuff that ultimately is like having trust in your third down back with a rookie quarterback.
C.J. Anderson. Remember the way Peyton talked about him?
Yeah.
His ability to do all those same things?
Yeah.
I mean, there's...
Yeah, no, it's massive. It's massive.
So I'm curious what's happening there. So he's another one who they could bring to their practice squad. Go
the little Jordan route.
Exactly.
I know, and I was thinking of kind of... running back rooms that'll be looking for runners in the wire, and running back rooms that might have an excess and are providing kind of hot commodities ahead of Samaje. Came up with maybe Khalil Herbert or Roshan Johnson in Chicago, maybe Kenneth Gainwell. Dylan Johnson, the former Washington back who was at Tennessee, is looking for a home. I don't know, but... Is Samaje more valuable to a contender than anyone I just said? Yeah, probably, right?
And does Samaje really want to stay here if... Like, Bengals fans want him back because of the things that he did for them in the postseason.
No, right. Right, and there's no mix in there. I mean, that'd be phenomenal for them.
And if you're Samaje, do you really want to stay with the Broncos, or do you want to go there or go to the Cowboys?
I mean, the writing's on the wall, even if they keep him this year,
totally.
Right?
So
there's a stable of young backs ahead of him.
I wonder what's happening with him. I think they would love to keep him on the practice squad, activate him, use the roster spot elsewhere. We'll see what happens. I really do think, though, that if you don't have him, that's a pretty important piece that is rare to find. And he may not be the most explosive or the big play type of guy, but again, think back to how many of those little catches he made last year. And remember they've tried to do some of that stuff with Javonte.
Offense.
Yeah. They tried to do some of that stuff with Javonte in the preseason. He doesn't get open in that way. Like, they've tried to do that stuff with Estime. Like I said, like, Jalil can't pass protect enough to be here every single time third down.
Yeah.
Like, there's spots for him. He really does complete that whole room. And like last year, if you keep him, he might have less than 5 carries all year, but still wind up being a pretty important piece of the offense. So
100%. But that's interesting that he is on there.
Yeah. Can we see who else is out? See if there's anything else interesting, and then we'll open things up a little bit more. Again, we talked about little Jordan Humphrey, talked about Traymon, talked about Samaje. Hit all these guys except Jalen Virgil, really. And for me, again, potential Traymon replacement in terms of special teams. Does a lot of those same things really well. Gunner, very fast, very strong at receiver. Interesting, though, we talk about all those 24-year-old running backs. There's a lot of 26-year-old receivers. Like, you look at a little Jordan Humphrey, 26. Jalen Virgil, 26. Brandon Johnson, 26. Devon Bailey, 26.
Yes,
so you have this whole tier. And while it's easy to think, like, well, we've been watching Lil Jordan for 5 years in the NFL now, 6 years in the NFL now.
Well,
Devon Bailey, a rookie, and all these guys kind of in between.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then if you followed him in college at Texas, you really feel like Lil Jordan's been in your world for a decade now. Yeah. And with a name like that, you could never forget him. I think it's a tough one for Virgil.
I agree. Making the roster.
Just a tough one to make.
If he has the kind... So if they really think he's that good of a special teamer, which I think they might. They didn't say this with Traymon, but the 2 returner thing now in the kickoffs, got 2 guys back there, that makes both those guys way more valuable because they're going to be a part of that rotation. If they really, really like Jalen Virgil as a returner and he has a big day today, then I could see it. But without a big day today, there's no reason not to put him on the practice squad.
Yeah. And then what do you want to do for these last 5 minutes? We haven't even talked tight end.
Yeah. Should we hit that next?
I'd be happy to.
It's
Nate Atkins hive right here.
Yep,
We're all in.
We've been big on Nate Atkins for a while now. Since like the week after the draft.
Yeah. And
last year's draft when he didn't get drafted.
That's right. And I like how you've talked about him as a guy who could replicate your blocking tight end or your fullback. And that's where maybe that math works out.
Yep.
Kroll is someone I'd sacrifice, but I just think he's the only guy who can replicate what Dulcich gives you.
Yep.
And then, I mean, where from there, Hank?
To me, Kroll is a bit of a luxury because, I mean, we've seen the preseason.
He is.
He just isn't. He's not good is the issue. He's super talented though. Like when he connects on a block, he'll hit a guy, knock him on his ass. Like he'll open up the seam, he'll catch a ball across the middle where you're like, wow, look at the speed. He has all those tools. He just hasn't combined those into being a good football player yet. And when we talk about age with some of these guys, he's another one. He's 26 now.
Yeah.
Like if say he's you work him in this year, develop him by next year. You think he's a good tight end. Get a few good years out of him, and then that's just the nature of where he is in this process. I think you keep him because those sorts of lottery tickets are important on a rebuilding team. I
Does
don't
it come
have
down
high
to Troutman
hopes.
Adkins? Are you carrying 3 in the end?
I think Adkins. I think Dulcich you have to keep.
He's the lock.
I think Adkins is probably my number 2. You have to keep him just because he doesn't miss a block. And he's versatile. We hear Lucas Kroll saying that in practice they have the vests that track the top speeds. He's getting the top speed every day. He's another young player who's growing. And I just think
suiting up today?
I'm actually not sure if Adkins. I would imagine.
Yeah, and he's 25. The only knock on him, aside from a lack of production at South Carolina, was that his height-wise, he is a little on the short side.
And it kind of helps him in the. There we go. It helps him in the blocking game a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
And just gets that leverage.
Lower center of gravity.
And then obviously when you're playing him in the backfield as well, that's a necessity.
Ball now.
But yeah, I also think you got to keep Troutman. I also think you got to keep Kroll just because of the talent. And all of a sudden, you're just having a chance to move Traymon to the practice squad, Lil Jordan to the practice squad. Samaje, if you're going to keep him, might as well be on the practice squad as long as you trust him not to just bolt and go to a contender.
Yeah, which you probably don't, honestly, man.
Yeah. But I think...
You might trust Troutman to get there.
True. You actually probably do.
Like, it's just... If they keep Troutman and Atkins, it tells you how much they really trust Atkins.
Yeah.
Which is... They like him, but they don't fully trust him.
The thing is,
if they go all in on Atkins and they let Troutman walk, I think that's a big endorsement of Atkins.
Atkins is like a middle of the road, Troutman's like a middle of the road blocker, a little below middle of the road receiver.
Yeah.
Adkins is like a super plus blocker. Like he kind of blows the rest of these guys out of the water, and especially with Quinn Bailey now gone,
he's
you're
really
gonna
made
use
that
him so much
transition
more
nicely. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, somehow did not have time to talk about the quarterbacks.
It's time.
Big Zach Wilson day, though. We'll be back
Huge
after
Zach
the game
Wilson day.
to talk about all of this, what changed because of the game.
Because the math at quarterback is now tied into all this.
It is?
Yeah.
I think they're keeping 3, though. There's a spoiler.
I think so, too.
I think so.
I'd be shocked if they didn't.
Appreciate all you guys for tuning in. Like I said,
Yes,
after the game, we'll be right back right here. And
Leave
we
us
will
a thumbs
see you
up on the
all
way
then.
out.
Oh, thumbs up and subscribe. All that stuff, too.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye. See you soon.
We all silly like the mayor.